U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi in Washington on Monday in a pre-planned meeting. Both urged de-escalation and committed to a two-state solution.
But it's imperative that all sides take steps to de-escalate and calm the situation. And again, I'm deeply concerned about the rocket attacks, and even as all sides take steps to de-escalate, Israel, of course, has a right to defend its people and its territory from these attacks.
Maintaining peace and stability in Jerusalem is key. Our focus right now on ensuring that the escalation stops, and for that to happen, we do believe that all illegal and provocative measures against either the peoples of Sheikh Jarrah or in terms of violations into Al-Haram must stop. Status quo needs to be preserved, and the rights of the Palestinians need to be respected.
Around the world, protests in solidarity with Palestinians, from Beirut to the UK, and outside the Israeli consulate in Toronto, they waved Palestinian flags. Pro-Palestinian protests erupted in Turkey, too, thousands taking to the streets to denounce Israeli aggression seen in occupied East Jerusalem over the weekend. And in Amman, Jordan, police blocked protesters from reaching the Israeli embassy, where demonstrators called for the ouster of Israel's ambassador.
Our message today is clear. Continue the public pressure on the government in order to close the embassy of the Zionist entity in our beloved capital, Amman, and deport the criminal ambassador who desecrates our capital.
In Washington, a growing number of Democrats in Congress are pressuring Biden to be more engaged.
And even the U.S. domestic politics are fascinating because some key Democrats, both in the Senate and even more so in the House of Representatives, are very much against what the Israelis are doing and are saying so vocally. So it's going to be a very difficult balancing act for the Biden administration.
President Biden had hoped to keep his focus in the early months of his presidency on domestic affairs, things such as the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine and the economy. But it's becoming increasingly clear that he now could be facing his biggest foreign policy crisis of his presidency and might not be able to keep the U.S. on the sidelines much longer. Gabriel Elizondo, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Mohammed Owais is a political analyst and researcher who specializes in the U.S. and Middle East. He joins us on Skype from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us. So how much of a coherent policy do you think the Biden administration has at this point in how to tackle the Israeli-Palestinian issue?
It is not coherent policy that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the lopsided policies of all the U.S. administrations from 1948 until today. Israel occupied Palestinian land, is still occupying and annexing Palestinian land, killing Palestinians. They signed a peace deal with the Palestinians in 1993, and nothing was implemented from it. And Israel continued to annex Palestinian land and occupying Palestinian homes. The latest was Sheikh Jarrah situation, where the Israelis were trying to replace the Palestinian residents of Sheikh Jarrah with new settlers who are coming to take over their homes. So, I mean, the U.S. policy, it is known, very well known, and nothing has changed since 1948. Even today, the U.S. government refused to allow a vote at the Security Council condemning the Israeli actions in Palestine.
Let me jump in here and bring you the Israeli narrative. They say that they're having to impose a law and order situation because Palestinian protesters are throwing stones.
Now we are talking about the chicken and the egg. The Israeli occupation is the cause of all evil. It is not the Palestinian presence on their own land and trying to go to pray at a mosque where the Israeli forces are protecting settlers and herds of settlers who want to come in and desecrate the Al-Aqsa mosque. So yes, the Palestinians are protecting their holiest shrine, and the first mosque in Islam was the Al-Aqsa mosque. So who is the aggressor here? It is the Israelis. It's the occupation forces and the protection that the Israeli forces and the Israeli government gives to these settlers, criminal settlers, who learned how to take things from the Palestinians without repercussions and without even trial. The Israeli narrative is only for public consumption, but the truth and the reality of this stuff, it's very clear for all of us, for the Palestinians. I am a result of the Israeli occupation. I'm a refugee. And I have been a refugee all of my life because of the Israeli occupation.
All right, let's come back to
they cannot blame the victim. They cannot blame the victim for what happened.
Let's come back to the US situation. A Gallup poll in March of this year found two interesting dynamics. The majority of Americans continue to sympathize more with Israel than the Palestinians, but a majority of Democrats, for the first time, some 53%, now favor the US pressuring Israel more than pressuring the Palestinians. Is the Biden administration caught between these two dynamics, do you think?
No, the Biden administration is caught between two dynamics domestically in the United States, the left and the left of left, and the extreme right wing and the middle left, the middle right. It is a struggle for who is going to govern America, Republicans and Democrats. Palestine has nothing to do with this. It is who wants to appeal for who in order to make it to the White House. Yes, I'm not here belittling what Bernie Sanders and the left wing in the United States Democratic Party is. They are all about human rights and civil rights. But the majority, if you put the majority, which is Republican majority, plus the, let's say, 1/3 to 40% of the Democrats who stand with Israel, then it gives them an overwhelming majority to stay the course by, ignoring the Palestinian rights and ignoring the aggression committed by the Israelis against the Palestinians. And what we heard from the Secretary of State today, the first word out of his mouth is Israel have the right to protect itself. What about the Palestinians who are under occupation? Who is going to protect them? They are defending themselves with stones. The Israeli government is killing Palestinians with F-15s and F-16s and F-35s made in America.
Okay.
So we cannot equate the victim with the criminal.
All right. Thank you so much, Mohammed Awais there.
Thank you.